first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.
Did that last week as well. That's what happens when you do it on a Wednesday. Anyway, a very good morning to you, Des.
How are you, John? Great to be here.
And how are you? Are you enjoying the good weather?
Good, thanks. Enjoying the good weather. Nice bit of sunshine out there.
Good time to get the old dogs out anyway.
Yeah. Had a nice walk in the Curragh again yesterday evening with ours. Yeah,
it's good.
It's lovely.
It's beautiful.
Lovely.
I see lots of dogs now walking around various different locations out in Emo and my neck of the woods, and further down there was they were just everywhere going for walks. It's brilliant, you know.
Do you know what though? We have to remind people again about the heat. It's amazing. Irish dogs don't take variations in temperature very well because they're not used to it. They're used to an old steady ambient temperature of 8 or 10 degrees, 12 degrees, whatever it is, the whole time. If it goes up to any hotter than 20, or 18 even, that's hot for the Irish dogs. So you'll have incidences of they go off their food a little bit. That's the first sign. So if an animal a dog in particular, is eating a little bit less at this time of year, don't worry, they're just a bit warm. And do have the sprinklers and give them an old cold shower, a good sprinkle in the garden. If fingers crossed, if the good weather continues, hopefully it will.
Well, I mean, even if it's not necessarily high intensity sunshine and it's still 21, 22 degrees and humid, dogs do feel the humidity as well, surely.
They do. They feel the heat. So we say this before, they don't sweat. So the way they control their temperature is by panting. And it's a very inefficient way of trying to cool down. So that is why they suffer from heat stress. So if they heat up in the course of normal exercise, they don't cool down again. So giving cold showers and access to lots and lots of water is really important.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. This time of the year, people have lots of animals, and of course, some of them go missing, and some of them get stolen, and some of them, it's all sorts of stuff going on. And that's what we're going to talk about for the next while. I suppose, in the context of what happens, what's the first point of call regardless of your animal? The good news is there's loads of websites out there as well as everything else, which I'll talk to you more about that in just a moment. But from the initial point of an animal going missing, your dog, or predominantly your dog first, we'll take it from a dog perspective. It's a little bit different to when cats go missing. But tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so there are greater numbers of animals actually coming into us, dogs in particular at the moment, being found on the road, being brought in as strays. So that's why we said we'd talk about this. So if a dog arrives into vet surgery or a dog shelter, the first thing that we will do is scan it to check does it have a microchip. Yeah. So microchipping is the law, which means pedigree puppies that are registered or even non-pedigree puppies that are going to be sold on a website, they're microchipped. So the way that the law is enforced is you can't sell a dog through a commercial channel without the microchip. Okay. So that means that thankfully most younger dogs are chipped, but there'll still be a lot of middle-aged to older dogs out there that are not microchipped. Okay,
but let's go back to that point about microchipping, and particularly with purebreds, because purebreds are the ones that make the money.
Yeah.
And that's probably a bad thing.
Yeah,
it
now,
can be.
That's unfortunately, it means that dog theft is still an issue, still a factor. So dogs would be picked up on the road. Dogs that get out, that shouldn't get out, they can be picked up on the road.
But you know the way, not just vets, but people can have the microchip readers. Yeah. They're only readers though, aren't they? They can't amend anything.
Yeah, no, they can't amend anything. They can't change anything. There's a scanner like a barcode scanner in the supermarket, a little portable handheld scanner, and all it does is it gives you the barcode number. That long number then has to be put into a number of websites where you can check these numbers. There's Fido.ie is the commonest one in Ireland, and Animark.ie is another one. But they all feed into a European website called EuroPetNet.
EuroPetNet?
PetNet, yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
So there's just a box on the homepage of those sites where you input the long barcode number, and it'll tell you the ownership details. Okay. But now there are GDPR issues. Not any person can put in a bar chip number and find out the owner's details. You have to be a registered vet or vet nurse or animal charity.
Yeah.
To have a login code to be able to access the ownership details.
But say, so you find a dog, right? Yeah. And then you scan it.
Yes.
And subsequently the long number comes up.
Yes.
What do you do with that number if you found a dog?
So that long number gets put onto say Fido.ie.
Yeah.
And we input it into the search bar, and then it asks us for a code. That's the user code. We have to put in our user code as a vet practice, and then our user code brings us to the back page of the website, if you like, where the owner's details show up for us to see.
Okay, that makes
And then
sense.
we try and contact the owners.
Okay. Do most people automatically default to bringing lost dogs that they've found to veterinaries?
Yeah, they do.
Surgeries?
They do. They'll probably ring the guards as well, and the guards will tell them go to your nearest vets, and the guards will also tell them, are you near the dog pounder, or are you near the local shelter?
Yeah, because they know that you've got the scanning.
Yeah, the guards will know. Guards will know where's the KSPCA, where are they based. Right, we'll send people there. We'll send people to the Kildare Animal Foundation. We'll send them to the LSPCA, or we'll send them to Cara Rescue. They'll have a list of charities, so they'll give them a phone number here, ring the KSPCA, and they'll say, bring it to the local vet and get it scanned to see does it have a chip number.
Okay, what is the return rate? Like, I mean, what percentages, or do we know?
Oh, if they're chipped, the return rate is excellent. It would be 90-something% return rate.
That's fantastic.
If they're chipped. Oh, yeah.
But, you know, are people kind of afraid to approach dogs and stuff if they are gone missing? Or what's the norm?
I know. People, there are a remarkable number of good Samaritans out there, and good dog handlers, and people that are dog lovers. And they'll approach a dog, they'll make friends with it, they'll see is it trustworthy. Like, obviously, if it barks or it backs away, then they can't catch it. They might even then report, hey, there's a dog which we can't catch, and it's running around in front of the school or wherever it is, and we can't catch him. In which case, hopefully somebody from one of the dog charities might go out and try and catch it at some stage, or the dog warden. Invariably, someone will get a hand on it, though.
Yeah.
And you'll often hear in neighbourhoods that there's a stray around an area for days, and people feed it for a couple of days in housing estates until somebody can catch it and get its trust and bring it to the vets. Yeah. That's a common scenario.
Do dogs go missing as much as used to in the good old days?
Yeah, unfortunately they do. They do because there are a lot of dog numbers out there. Dog ownership is on the up. Invariably they'll get out of the back garden or the front garden by accident at some stage. It's hard to prevent it happening for everybody, Yeah. And particularly younger dogs that want to explore, they'll run. Yeah. Yeah, and then they'll be deemed to be missing, they'll be deemed to be lost or strayed, and someone might pick them up. So it does happens all the time. Then you do have dog theft, unfortunately, is still all too common.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And the other thing then, unfortunately, is you have bad actors out there, will say, people who stray dogs or turn them loose. A dog is taken on board for a particular reason, and if it can't hunt or it won't hunt or whatever it is, then it might be just turned loose on the road. That unfortunately all too often happens, yeah.
Is it easier to identify dogs that are gone missing when you see them, because it's not a common like what it used to be in the 80s, 90s and the early part of the noughties, where dogs would roam the streets? Now you don't see it that often, so if you see a dog roaming by itself, is that one of the telltale signs that it's got out at the very least or somewhere?
You'll nearly always tell one that's escaped from a nearby garden.
Okay.
You'll know.
Right.
You can actually tell one that's cared for, that's a family pet, and it'll usually be a happier, better fed candidate. The unfortunate poor dog that's been turned loose or just strayed as an unwanted dog, they will be less well kept, and they'll be hungrier looking and probably more frightened and more fearful.
Okay, so far we've been talking about chipping and trying to locate dogs, getting them back to the vets, and the vets then will try and reunite them with their families.
Yeah.
What about the scenarios where dogs just generally go missing? What type of things do you need to do to try and get your dog back?
Your dog is missing. What do you do? The neighbourhood. You've got to look around the whole local neighbourhood. You've got to check that your dog just wasn't taken in by a neighbour or someone living nearby who did the right thing and took the dog off the road to get it out of harm's way. You will often find within the first day or two that someone very close to you will have taken the dog in.
Yeah.
So that's the luckiest and commonest scenario, that within the first day or day and a half or 2 days going missing, you'll find that a neighbour has it. When I say a neighbour, I mean it could be somebody in the next estate, or it could be someone living on the opposite side of your road, your street. But someone within a mile or two away may well have taken in your dog.
Yeah.
So that's the first common scenario, common thing. You do have to knock on doors. Secondly, go on. Facebook is the best. it's still the commonest site that we say settled older people use.
Yeah.
Now the younger generation prefer Instagram and prefer the other sites, but I think the older people, like our listeners, would still be very active on Facebook.
They would be very active on Facebook, but a lot of the charity organisations that take in dogs, the local, the ISPCA, we know is the Irish version of it, and then there's the DSPCA, and there's the Kildare, the Kildare one as well, and there's other pounds that once you link, and there's sites called Lost and Found Dogs, there's Lost Dogs Only, there's loads of them that throw up lots of stuff.
Online you'll find links and sites for all the local charities. If you're not sure of the names of a local charity, just Google dog shelters, dog charities in my area. Yeah,
there's one that's absolutely fabulous, because I know when we lost our cat, it was called Found Animals Only, right? So
very good.
It's only found animals. So they to put that up, and you scan through that, and it gives you the breakdown of the areas, and then there's Lost and Found Only. But there's 30,000-40,000 people members of these things, so there's always something is linking to something else.
There is,
and then they share that, because then if you go onto another site, you'll find that the people who own the Facebook pages are resharing them with the other equivalent sites.
They are. And if you look on the community pages on Facebook for your neighbourhood watch page, your Kildare and local areas community page, and they will link back to these dog sites also. So social media, good place to look. Contacting the local shelters directly, find the phone numbers for KWW, SPCA, LSPCA, whoever it is. Ring them. Ring them. They'll tell you if something has come in that fits the description of your dog. Now, if all else fails, then you've gone down those routes. It's a little bit like anything that goes missing, really. It's the first day or two that counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the most important.
Yeah.
I think the third or fourth option on the list, if you get to the end of day 2, beginning of day 3, your dog is still missing, you should then be printing a few posters and putting them up on lampposts as well.
Yeah. And I see people going around just even throwing them into letterboxes.
Yeah, they should. That's worth doing. And do ring the guards at that stage too. And again, they're fielding these inquiries from members of the public the whole time, and they take note of it, they write it down. You'll often find a guard will say to you, yes, I got a call yesterday from a lady about a dog like that, and I sent her to the LSPCA, or I sent her to the dog pound, or whatever it is.
Yes, I think the one, they say the old saying, there's 7 degrees of separation or connection, or 6 degrees of connection
between all of us,
between everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you go to these places, there's always a knock on. They'll always say, well, try this or try this. When you go to the next one, they'll say, try this or try that.
Yes.
Especially within the locality.
Yeah.
Because there's also, once you tap into using one resource, then you have, say, housing estates that have residents associations that say, here, we'll put that up on our Facebook page, and it broadens out that way as well.
The other thing to bear in mind is if the dog goes missing, if it's chipped, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it should be. Most are nowadays. Secondly, if there's a collar on your dog and a tag on your dog, right, people will ring whatever number's on the tag. They'll ring whatever number is listed on the database. Yeah. So you need to check back and think to yourself, if your dog is 5 or 6, what phone number were you using in 2020 when you got that pup? And switch that phone on or reactivate that number, because that's the one that they'll ring. And your email account. I know last year or so I was using Outlook, and that Outlook email box that I had for years and years became inactivated, and I had to switch to Gmail. So people change emails. And you might have had an old email on that unfortunately, registered to that chip.
That's a very good tip as well. Absolutely. You need to keep updating your stuff. With cats going missing, it's a little bit different, because half them are not probably registered, and the other half are probably don't have chips on them.
Now, much fewer numbers of cats are chipped. I'd say it's an exception to the rule if a cat is microchipped, which is a pity, because if you have a house cat, bear in mind a cat that's indoors most of the time wants to be indoors. When they do get out there, they are less savvy, and they will be picked up by people. So a house cat definitely should be microchipped. And as I say, even if you have a yard cat and he's out in the neighbourhood on his travels on a regular basis, he could be hit by a car, he could be injured. some kind person could be bringing your injured cat to the vets.
What happens, going back generally to animals that are hit by a car or knocked down, do people kind of just leave them? I don't mean as if it's fatal. Or what should one do?
People are really good. They pick them up and bring them to the vets.
Right, okay. Right.
Yeah, and they'll often say, look, if you can't find the owner, I'll pay the bill. In which case we're appreciative of the fact that they're being a good Samaritan, and you'll generally find the vets will do a good deal on the bill in those situations and take some of the costs on board, at the same time ourselves when those things happen. So if a cat like that is knocked down, it needs to be microchipped so that we can find the owner.
Yeah.
If it's not, the chances of us finding the owner are slimmer.
Okay, but at the very least, if your cat is predominantly an indoor cat and then gets out, they're the type of cats that priority should be microchipped.
At the very least, that house cat, when it's a kitten, when it's getting its vaccinations at kitten stage, when it's being neutered, at 5 months when it's asleep. Cats don't like the microchip injection. So a really good time to give it is when they're asleep for their neutering procedure. Yeah. And put the microchip in and register the details and all the rest of it. And, it happens, I'd say, in our practice probably every week. An injured cat comes in.
Okay.
And we might be lucky and find the owners. They're rarely microchipped, first of all. And it's 50-50 as to whether we find the owners. Now, what we do if we have an injured cat like that and we have the signature from a person that picked it up who isn't the owner, they are responsible for the financials to a degree, and we'll try and work with them on that until or on such time as we can find the cat's owners.
Okay, fair point on that.
And we're fairly good at finding the cat's owners if there are, because we know all the channels.
Okay.
So I can trust Jackie and Sinead and so on, and they know exactly, and they're on first name terms with the volunteers and the professionals in the dog shelters.
What's the main reason why dogs go missing in the first place? I mean, if dogs are so used to being in the localities, know where they're going, and are so used to, they're more savvy than other animals like cats. Is it just a case they go off, or maybe they're not neutered and they're going off hunting and playing around?
If we look at if a dog is at home during the day, one of the reasons why doggy daycare is so popular is because it's harder and harder to leave the dog at home by himself all the time.
Yeah.
And we have now a commuter culture. So the person who's working from home has the dog with them all the time, but on the days they have to go to the office, the dog could be home alone. And he's bored in the garden and he's not really used to being on his own all the time.
Okay. Takes
a bit of getting used to. Any bit of a flaw, like a broken latch on the gate, and the dog is out,
Okay. I've got 2 or 3 quick questions for you. First of all, John was on. He wants to know to create a size of a run. His garden is in a corner state. It's not that big, and he wants to give a bit of a run to his 2 Labradors, but doesn't know how to go about doing it.
Yeah, with 2 Labradors, realistically, they need a lot of space. And I would hope that they get the opportunity to have a serious length of exercise and a seriously good run a couple of times a day with this owner. But in terms of creating a secure run in the garden, you're looking at minimum, you need an area bigger than this room, John.
Okay.
So a run whereby 2 labs are going to be comfortable and have enough room to move about and go to the toilet in one corner and stretch their legs in the other. It needs to be, I'd say, about 8 metres in length. Probably 8 by 4 in metres for 2. If you had 1 lab, I'd say 5 metres by 3 or 6 metres by 4.
Okay.
Would be an adequate size. If you have 2, you're probably realistically looking at an area of about 8 metres by 4.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah.
And they need a kennel in it as well. And again, those kennels are 1.5 metres high, and they're probably 2 metres by 2 metres. So a double kennel like that would be 2 metres by 2 metres.
Okay.
Or a garden shed that's about 3 metres by 3 metres.
Okay.
Probably would double up, would do nicely as a shelter or as a double kennel for those dogs.
That's a very good idea as well. Okay, here's another question for you. Would my little goats be okay out in the sun? They have fresh water every day, but unfortunately not much shelter. What would you suggest, or should we maybe put them out into a shed or whatever?
They need to have shelter. Because little goats like that, I'm guessing they're pale-skinned and pale pigmented. Most little goats are.
Yeah.
Are they pygmy goats? It'd be lovely to see pictures of them. They're a nice breed of friendly, very sociable and very intelligent little goat, the pygmy goat. And they've become popular as a pet. Like cats, they will have pigmentation. They'll have pale noses, maybe pale ears. And they'll be prone to sunburn. And they could get sunburn and they can get sun lesions just as ponies and horses can get. So they do need to have some type of a canopy, some type of an overhang. They could not be left out in open sunlight. If they had their way, if you were to watch a herd or a flock of, be it sheep or goats or calves or foals, whatever, lambs, whatever it is, the natural behaviour of a herbivore like that out at grass would be to seek shade in, even on a day like today, which isn't particularly warm, but there's a nice bit of sunlight out there, and you would find all herbivores now would be seeking shade today if they could. They'd be at the corners of the ditches, they'd be under trees.
Okay, so get them shelter one way.
Yes, yeah,
absolutely. Okay, good stuff. Des, thanks for that as always, and we'll do it all again next
That's great, John.
Tuesday. Cheers.
It's a Pet's Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet, managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.